On the way to pay New Year's greetings, an uncle picked up a little monster. At first, he thought it was a simulated toy thrown away by a naughty kid, but when he held it in his hand, he could clearly feel that it had a real heartbeat and a warm current on its body. However, it looked like a piglet, but much smaller than a pig, like a rabbit, a bit like a mouse, a parrot, and a bit like a newborn hedgehog. The uncle went through all the animals in his mind, but still couldn't figure out what it was. Does anyone know what it is? Look at this little guy with such delicate skin. It must have just been born. It looks so weak, as if it might die soon, without its mother's care. I think it's going to be tough for this little monster to make it to the new year. The uncle, who is usually quite curious, suddenly has a bold idea. He decides to take this little monster home to save it. However, its growth scares everyone. Once he gets home, the uncle immediately puts it in an incubator. At this time, the little monster's skin was ruddy, and his condition was obviously much better, and his heartbeat gradually recovered. But the uncle knew that if he didn't let him eat in time, the little monster would still starve to death soon. So the uncle immediately took a bottle of pure milk and fed it carefully with a syringe. The little thing started sucking without being fed. Seeing this scene, the uncle eased his worries. Since the little guy's stomach and intestines are not fully developed, he can only feed about 2 milliliters each time. This is to ensure that his stomach will not be burst. In the next few days, the uncle will feed him carefully and regularly. After a week, the little guy has finally matured a lot and has become much more lively. However, at this time, it is still impossible to tell what kind of animal he is, and his eyes have not yet fully grown. Time quickly came half a month later. Under the careful care of the uncle, the little guy looks very healthy, and a layer of fluff has grown on his body. Worried that the little guy will catch a cold, the uncle also used the scarf given by his ex-girlfriend as a quilt for him. The little guy at this stage is also very well behaved. Every day he eats and sleeps just like an obedient human baby. Sometimes the uncle will wake him up and get him to exercise. Eating without exercise can easily lead to weight gain. But the little guy still lazily lies in the uncle's palm, looking comfortable and content. The uncle put a little yarn around the creature's paw, but he has no idea what he's doing with it. Does anyone know what kind of animal this is? After time together, the uncle has developed a deep bond with the little monster. He even turns down all social events, dedicating all his attention to the little creature, as if he has already come to see it as his own child. As time goes by, the entire outline of the little monster has become clear. At this point, I guess it must be a cute little squirrel. Although the squirrel is already a month old, under the uncle's pampering, it still does nothing every day, just lying around in all sorts of positions, enjoying its sleep. Even when it comes to eating, the uncle has to bring the food to its mouth. The little guy always likes to burrow into the uncle's palm, as if it has already taken him as its mother. However, what's strange is that even though it's already a month old, the little squirrel still hasn't opened its eyes. Could it be that animals can also suffer from congenital blindness? And he was also much slower than his peers in other aspects of his body. Seeing this, the uncle felt a little sad. As a parent who doesn't want their children to grow up healthily, fortunately, half a month later, the little squirrel was fully formed. The little squirrel was surprised and scared when she saw her mother was a grown man for the first time. But when she thought about it, it was this man who raised her, so she immediately became close to the uncle again. Facing this new world, the little squirrel feels an immense curiosity. Seeing his daughter finally grow up, the uncle feels genuinely relieved. He even gives the little squirrel a lovely name, Xiao Wu. To welcome Xiao Wu into this new family, the uncle specially clears out a room for her to live in and installs a cat climbing frame along with various toys. Xiao Wu climbs around on the frame, looking very satisfied with the room her mother prepared for her. Xiao Wu always kissed his mother's hand, as if to express his gratitude to him in this way. I really have to sigh that all things have spirits. But the uncle understood that the little squirrel is a wild protected animal, and nature is its final destination. So the uncle spent 3 million to buy a villa and installed many protective nets around it. In order to let Xiao Wu adapt to the wildlife as soon as possible, the uncle would bring it to the yard every now and then to get in touch with the wildlife in advance. However, having lived in a sheltered environment for so long, Xiao Wu is very timid about the wild. He is always reluctant to leave the uncle's side. After much gentle persuasion from the uncle, Xiao Wu finally tries to step out of his mother's embrace. For a naturally curious little squirrel, the moment he touches the ground, he becomes exceptionally excited, running around and looking very happy. But he never strays far from his mother's sight. After all, he is still a juvenile and lacks the ability to take care of himself. After some time of adjustment, Xiao Wu finally gets used to life in the wild. However, this little guy doesn't wander far. Whenever he's hungry, he comes back home to ask his mom for food. The uncle is very generous with his child, often preparing big bags of nuts for Xiao Wu. After returning to the wild, Xiao Wu has also made many new friends, and he frequently brings them over to share food and drinks. As his circle of friends grows, the uncle finds himself preparing over 10 kilograms of nuts every day. Fortunately, the uncle is wealthy, a millionaire. Otherwise, who could afford to feed them? However, the little squirrels also brought a lot of joy to the uncle, providing him with a kind of emotional comfort that humans can't offer. Perhaps this is the most beautiful picture of harmony between humans and animals.